Hi, everybody. In this video today, I'm going to help you get back in touch with your inspiration to help you remember why it is that you started whatever it is that you've started and to reconnect you to what it is that really drives you. I know that many of us start our projects, our businesses, our collaborations, even some of our relationships feeling absolutely lit up by the possibilities that lie ahead. That's why we start in the first place. But seasons, they shift, and sometimes we find ourselves in seasons where we wonder where that spirit of possibility even went. Maybe you're spread too thin and you can't feel it. Maybe you're just mentally and physically exhausted trying to balance your work with your never-ending responsibilities of daily life. Or maybe you're just zoomed in on the details so much that you haven't given yourself a chance to zoom back out and see the bigger picture and remember why it is you started and where you're even heading. And maybe you're just emotionally exhausted, beat down. You look around and you can't help but notice these forces that seem to be actively working against you. Like the world keeps pushing you down every time you try to get back up. It just keeps pushing you down and you get back up and it pushes you down. It can feel super discouraging. And I've been there myself plenty of times. And over the years, I've found ways to reconnect with that spark, ways that remind me that it's still there, even even when life feels heavy. And that's where I want to start today. It's something I help others with too, and it always begins in the same place. It begins by noticing what's happening on the inside. Um, it always starts there, inside. And oftentimes, I'm sure you know this, we are our own worst enemy. And if we pay attention to what's going on inside when we're being our worst enemy, we can't help but notice that there's this quiet tug of war going on in there. Um, this quiet tug of war between the part of you that still sees possibility and is that little spark of hope and excitement, and that part of you that's tired, skeptical, and maybe even a little cynical or a lot cynical. Um, you know, how do I describe this? That feeling when you feel the spark inside of you and you kind of like take this sharp inhale, like you're going to start something or say something, like, that very moment you do that inside. The moment you do that, almost immediately something else inside you swoops in and squashes it, to ground you in reality, to protect you from getting hurt and disappointed or even making a fool of yourself. It reminds me of that scene from the Grinch movie where the little girl, Cindy Lou Who, is following the Grinch around, going, and maybe if you could reunite with the Who's and be a part of Christmas. And then the Grinch snaps, maybe we could reunite with the Who's and be a part of Christmas. Grow up. You know, like, uh, it's like we have an internal Cindy Lou Who and an internal Grinch. I feel that internal narrative is common, like from my own experience and from conversations I have with people. One believes that in what's possible, and the other is trying to keep us safe. And the truth is that neither of them should really be running the show. Both are valuable, both deserve our attention. But when we're tired or overextended, the Grinch part tends to have more weight. He's louder, he's sharper, more convincing. He convinces us that it's more practical to lower our expectations, stay small or busy or safely cynical. Um, but here's the thing, though. The spark you feel, that moment of aliveness of maybe it isn't a blip. It's information. It's life trying to move through you again. Um, but I just want to tell you that if you feel that possibility, even just a glimmer, it's real, and it's your duty to go for it, to give it some attention. And that's what this video is really about. finding your way back to that spark. And it reminds me of this JFK quote, one that I return to often, where he says, "The problems of this world cannot possibly be solved by skeptics or cynics whose horizons are limited by the obvious realities." And that line has a lot of weight for me because cynicism, whether in the world around us or inside us, it really dulls that spark. It convinces us that it's safer not to care too much, not to hope too loudly. That might be a little wise too. But that spark of imagination, of openness, of why not, that's what really moves everything forward. And like I said, I think we all have that tug of war inside us, a part that's tired and skeptical, and a part that still wants to believe, to create, to love, to build something meaningful. Um, but it's easy to lose hope, isn't it? Even when it's the last thing we want to do. It's easy to get disheartened and cynical and hardened by the world and all its noise and tragedies. But there's something really powerful inside us that resists that. And that quiet, steady part that refuses to close. That's the part I'm speaking to, not not the avoidant, wishful daydreamer, but the part that recognizes that life is really a gift, even when it doesn't really feel like it. The part that senses that there are others out there, doing their best too. And, it takes courage. The part that dreams of things that never were and keeps going. That's the part we strengthen when we choose the spark. And my invitation to myself, as much as to you, is to keep strengthening that part, to keep choosing the spark, even when the world feels heavy. What I want to share with you next is the ways that I've discovered work for me to reconnect with it. And just to be clear, this isn't three surefire steps to reconnect to your spark kind of video. It's not a recipe. Each of us has our own unique path to carve out and walk. That said, there are some things I've noticed that tend to help people reconnect. Patterns, practices, questions to ask yourself. Those are the things I want to share with you next. And the whole idea of reconnecting to your spark, it usually doesn't happen through trying harder. It's not about forcing inspiration or waiting for the perfect plan to appear. It often starts with something much smaller and much simpler, and that is giving myself enough space to notice what actually makes me feel alive again. And that can be surprisingly hard these days, um, because we live in this constant mental, fast-paced way, always taking in new information, comparing ourselves, scrolling, reacting. We spend so much time tuned into everyone else's life and what's going on around us that we forget what our own energy even feels like. So sometimes the first step back is as simple as setting your phone down, closing your laptop or your iPad, and giving yourself 5 quiet minutes with a blank page. Um, and that can be confronting for a lot of people. Um, but a blank page to ask yourself what helps, ask yourself simple, hard questions like what helps me feel open? What makes me feel a little more like myself? When do I feel most alive, playful, or connected? You might be surprised at how quickly the answers start to surface, not as a to-do list, but as like these gentle clues. And if you'd like a little structure for this kind of reflection, I have a couple of free resources that I'll link below and you can check out later. They'll help you get clear on what really lights you up and what your next step forward might be. Maybe it's time outdoors. Maybe it's creating something with your hands, like being around animals, cooking and sharing food, moving your body, or just sitting still with a cup of tea and um, staring at the horizon. Whatever it is, notice it. Those small moments of expansion are your way back in. And once you've recognized them, the real shift comes when you start living them, when you actually do something about it. Not just thinking, not just sitting with your journal and a cup of coffee, feeling inspired for a few minutes, but bringing some of that energy into your day-to-day real life. That's when the spark starts to build again. That's how we begin to build lives we don't feel the need to escape from, lives that really move us. For me, reconnecting to my spark often starts with just being outdoors. The further I get from nature, the sicker I feel. Really. Like something inside me gets not well, stuck. Um, and I'm sure I'm not unique in that. We just we don't just thrive in nature, we're part of it. And I don't think that we're meant to be away from it for long, if at all. Even a short walk can reset things. Feeling the ground under your feet, noticing the light shift in the sky, putting your hands in the soil or touching a tree, it's enough to remind you that you belong to something bigger. Um, and I've lived in places where the I live in a place where the weather is fairly warm year round, so it does make it easier. But I've also lived in Wisconsin for many, 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 many years where winter can be brutal. I remember one of my first big investments there was a solid pair of boots, snow pants, and a warm jacket and like headgear and gloves. Because I really am passionate about this, but when you're dressed for it, you can go out and actually enjoy it. You're fearless. The cold, the snow, even the ice, there's a kind of magic in it. Um, so wherever you are, the point isn't that you need a perfect landscape or perfect weather. It's that getting yourself outside and moving outside, even just a little, it grounds you physically and mentally, and it's a quick, simple way to reconnect with yourself and reset your energy. Anyway, not to go on and on about this, but this is definitely my go-to. But you need to notice what naturally energizes you, those things that make you feel a little lighter, a little more like yourself. This way, you're more likely to do those things that keep your spark in good shape, whatever form this may take for you personally. I like to think of this as building your own personalized wellness menu. So, really, take the time to study yourself because the clues to how you can be at your best are so unique to who you are. And if you want a little extra guidance exploring this, I have a couple of free resources that can help you notice what really lights you up. So, like I said, they're in the comments below. Another point I'd like to make is that it's super common for us to sort of scan for what's wrong, what's missing, what needs fixing. It's kind of natural. It's how we survive. We don't go, oh, that's going well. We go, oh, where's the error? Scan for error. But when it comes to reconnecting with your spark, it's just as important to notice what's right, what's working well, what comes naturally to you. And that includes your natural talents and strengths. Those things that come so easily to you, you might not even notice them. And that's why sometimes it's really helpful to get a little perspective from the people around you, the people that know you. They might see things in you that you've overlooked. Just giving a little attention to what's going well, what energizes you, and where your natural talents lie. It's like opening a door to more of that spark in your life. And one last important piece I want to touch on is the power of connection. That spark you're noticing on the inside, the one you've been giving airtime to, it doesn't have to stay just with you. It starts with you, but it doesn't have to stay just with you. Ideas, inspiration, and energy, they can be fragile. Think of baby birds when they're hatching from their eggs. As long as they're inside the egg, they're pretty safe. They're hidden, but then they start to become vulnerable because you know they've hatched and they're learning to fly, and they need some support to take off. So you really need the right support around you. If you hold them close, nurture them, and share them with people who care and believe in you, they're more likely to grow. They're more likely to grow their wings and fly. And it's not about showing off or desperately needing validation. It's about giving your reflections a little space in the world alongside someone you trust. So share, what I'm saying is share what lights you up and what you've noticed about yourself or just your thoughts about where you want to move next. Um, Often talking it through with another person can help ideas catch fire in a way they never could alone. But before you do that, give yourself that quiet time first, that reflection, that noticing, that pause. Treat that as the first step because you can't really share what you don't fully feel and recognize inside yourself. And make sure you're pulling around you the right people, not just anybody. So here's the thing. You already have everything you need to reconnect with your spark. It's all inside you, waiting for you to notice it, nurture it, and act on it. If you want a little guidance, like I said, I have that free workbook that walks you through these reflections and gives you some simple steps to help you notice and act on what really energizes you. You can grab it below and start exploring yourself. So take a breath, notice what lights you up, give it some space, and then take those small steps forward. That's super, 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 super important. Really take them. Okay? Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.